Hey guys, I'm your host Sritanu and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Career Dojo Podcast, wherein we bring in real industry experts and practitioners who share their expertise and their learnings and career journeys with us so that we get benefited with our career growth, actionable insights, and also a roadmap plan for our own career. And this episode is sponsored by Measure Camp, which is a great community-driven networking event that's going to bring a very unconventional way of discussing around data, around the problems we are facing day-to-day life in our jobs. And it's not like a typical corporate seminar where you get bored to death. Because if you do so, if it scares the hell out of you, then I'm there with you. I've done that and I have felt bored a lot. But this is going to be different because it's driven by people like us and for people like us. After their chapters around Los Angeles, Denmark, and Paris, it's time for the Delhi chapter. It's happening on September 12th and you don't want to miss it. More info coming soon at the end of the video. So it's time to introduce our special guest for today, Mr. Narayan Keshavan, who has been into this industry for 19 years and he currently serves as a director of digital growth at Orange Business. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks. How are you today?
Great. It's been great. With you will actually help us to learn multiple new things and your perspectives, more importantly. You have served some brilliant and heavy roles in the past. So I know a few things, but I actually want you to narrate your own career story for our viewers so that they also happen to know about your journey so far. So could you start with the initial responsibilities and roles that you had in your career?
Sure. I don't want to give a long history, but then, as with anyone, I did my engineering. That was the only path known. At that point in time, I knew I didn't want to do anything to, do with medical. So took engineering. I was working with Siemens in my initial years. It was, getting involved in industrial automation, but then something within me obviously wasn't clicking. So that's when I chose to do my MBA. And then after that, I joined Airtel. And for me, the first year was very, very insightful because they put us through different cross-functional stints. And that gave me a good understanding of, what probably could be a good opportunity for me. And then again, spent around 4 years there. It was, again, a very, very competitive space. Telecom at that point in time had 12 players. So massive learning, huge challenges.
So when was that year? Actually,
2008 to 2012. So 2009-10 is when a lot of operators entered India, and it was hyper competitive at that time.
So you mean to say that Docomo, Vodafone,
MTS, Uninor,
crazy crowd. Actually, it was good that we had multiple options.
Yes.
Now that we are limited by choice, we are penalized with every monthly subscription going higher and higher. So you did your MBA, right? So
That's
from which college have you done?
So I did it from Jamnalal Bajaj, Mumbai.
Okay, that's a great college. I mean, many aspires to be a part of Jamnalal Bajaj Institute.
I'm fortunate to have been there, but yes, I specialized in marketing, and then obviously I was in a marketing role earlier, and then career somehow brought me into analytics when I joined Dell around 2012.
So you led a team of analysts and engineering also in Dell, or how?
So it started as an individual contributor around 2012, and interestingly, at that point in time, you didn't have a lot of analytics professionals as such. So in fact, I didn't have the right kind of credentials to probably take up the role at Dell because I had no background in web analytics or digital analytics at that point in time. Fortunately, again, the hiring manager of the team there was very open to getting people who are good with analytics, problem solving, and let them learn into the role. So eventually, yes, during my journey, I took people management responsibilities around 2015. So it has been over a decade now since I've been managing teams, leading individuals, and trying to play a broader role.
So in a way, Dell was the place where you got formally introduced to the world of analytics, so to say.
In fact, Airtel itself, it was actually both, even though the role didn't call it analytics, but I was the product manager for long distance business, which is STD and ISD business. But as a product manager and marketing manager, both for that particular portfolio, I had to do all the number crunching. I had to identify the right kind of target segments that we would roll out some offers for, and then also analyze when we introduce new products, which is like recharges for prepaid customers, the pre-post analysis of how it's doing. So it was like you are doing everything. You're not dependent on. So that did help me land a role in Dell.
And then from Dell, you have moved to the Orange business. So this is a fairly new name because there are many people who are not that much aware. So could you just brief about your role at Orange business and what exactly Orange business do?
Sure. So Orange Business is a subsidiary, or the parent organization is Orange, which is Orange Telecom. It's primarily into telecom. And historically, it was France Telecom. It just acquired a lot of companies and then eventually rebranded itself as Orange, because Orange was also acquired by France Telecom at one point. So that's the parent. It's a 40 billion euro revenue company. And Orange Business specifically focuses on the B2B businesses, which is primarily mobility-related solutions, as well as some of the IT services and digital integration-related services. So that's about it. Yeah, I mean, it has been a lesser-known brand in India because it's obviously not a consumer brand here.
The operations are not exactly into the Indian market.
Yes. I mean, they are. Even in India, they are serving. But yeah,
B2B, I think.
B2B, yes.
B2B.
And however, the bulk of the business or significant proportion of the business is still probably in Europe, but it has a global presence with teams in almost 65 countries.
Wow, that's huge. And then you are building teams and you have a lot of different teams in it. Actually, we'll come back to that because I would actually have few more deeper questions which actually fits in a different segment. We'll come there soon. But to initially begin with, we'll definitely go through the professional journey and the career learnings overall. But how would you define yourself outside work? Let's get to know you rather than, I mean, obviously we'll get back to the professional part, but who are you outside the work and all?
I think, again, given the phase of life I'm in, like in my 40s, obviously, so a lot of, questions around what's the purpose for me in life, things like those are coming. But if I have to simply say who I see myself as an individual, I'm a simple person who probably loves simplicity, enjoys simple things. And now I'm reminding myself to probably focus on all the smaller good things in life than probably chase something that is, huge and probably very, very shiny.
So I think that realization phase and everything is now kicking up and you are kind of adopting to it. Again, from the academic journey to your career journey, so what kind of a student would you call yourself? Like topper, kind of curious explorer? I'm backbencher, I can admit that. What about you?
I wouldn't call myself topper, though I have been among the top 1, 2 for most of my life, but then I never saw that as, something to be very proud of. And I was actually a front bencher, but I have a theory about front benchers. I feel that teachers always look at the back benchers, so you actually can doze off on the first bench. So I had that theory always.
Okay, great. And so like you said, your familiarity with analytics mostly actually already happened with the Airtel role, right? So it came naturally to you that, the progression towards digital analytics and, the more even subsets of that digital analytics. So it came kind of organically to you while you were already into the grind?
I think yes. So I think analytics, because I was doing something similar in my earlier role. So that I think came naturally. What was interesting, obviously, is the understanding of the digital space or the online domain. And especially at Dell, it was also e-commerce. So very exciting and interesting in many ways. So yes, I think analytics, probably the foundations were set earlier, but understanding the domain was what made it even more interesting for me, because I personally, even within analytics, I love working in the digital space, having elements of online user behavior, UX, things like those. So that excites me.
Great. Would you mind if I ask you that what was your first ever salary and what have you done with it?
Yeah, so my first ever salary, I still remember the annual number. It was 2.16 lakhs. This is when I joined Siemens back in 2004. I didn't do the traditional handing it off to my parents because my father was dead against it. He never let me kind of, offer anything to them other than gift. So it could be a little selfish, but I did buy a Siemens mobile then. And the story behind that is when I joined Siemens was, that mobile business was almost dying. And I just wanted to, I was so passionate, given that it was my first employer, I wanted to prove that, Siemens phones are not that bad. And I wanted to use it and prove it. So yeah, that was my first purchase.
Great. Do you still have that phone with you?
No, not now.
Okay, awesome. Let's talk about a bit on people trying to enter into this market, perspectives and everything. So first thing, like at Orange Business, do you also hire off-campus, on-campus drive, like including freshers and all?
Yes, so we don't have off-campus drives as such, but yes, we do have a campus hiring program, and I do have team members joining every year through campuses. So on both fronts, like engineering graduates also joining, and in some cases also B school graduates. So it's a mix of both.
And do you have any particular threshold, like we only look for tier 1 or tier 2 colleges as such?
Primarily, it's the organizational strategy, but yes, I mean, they prefer at this point in time to define, what is the benchmark they go with. So I would say yes, would say somewhere between tier 1 and tier 2 is where we are operating right now.
Okay, and is it only limited to any Bangalore, or it could be anywhere?
No, it's for all locations. It's primarily open for all locations. But again, specifically, we prefer going to institutes where the organization has physical presence. So, I mean, but it's not a limitation. I mean, every year we explore new
I think it's
new universities.
more of a convenience part also.
Absolutely, and sometimes I think the realistic context is many students also prefer being closer home. So
yeah,
I think somewhere it removes a lot of ambiguities. If someone has been in a specific city and they get the opportunity in the same city, the likelihood of the person being serious about joining also is higher.
So since you're building a digital team from scratch, so when you look for hiring freshers and all, so how do they actually plan to get into? Because fresher, and this is a very niche domain, there is a huge bridge to be filled. So how should they plan it?
So for me personally, when I look at freshers, I don't look for any knowledge of the domain, although my belief is that the freshers these days have so many avenues to learn things.
True.
And in fact, I keep telling my team sometimes that maybe a fresher or someone who is not even from this industry would know a lot more about the online or the digital space than probably I know at this point in time.
Yeah.
The main thing that I look for is the attitude. And one, if they have already shown some passion in that area, if they've done something small. These days, most students, even during their college days, they would do something with, say YouTube, social media, so
some form of a portfolio.
They dabble into things. So they come with some background, but that alone is not enough. But the point is, I'm not very worried about the domain. I'm more worried about, are they focused on, problem solving? Are they able to think in a structured manner and articulate it clearly? That's more important for me.
Great. So I think these are the various topics that would actually separate out the top 10% fresher out of the whole bunch.
Absolutely. And if I may add, I think one thing that I feel is not realized as much among students or freshers is the communication skills. Sometimes, as someone who's hiring for, hiring freshers, I understand that people might have excellent technical skills, but probably not really up to the mark on communication skills. And sometimes, even though I realize that, I have to be honest to what I'm looking for, and I have to go with, someone who probably has a balance of both rather than looking for one with the exceptional technical skills. So I think that's something that freshers should realize, that communication skills really matter.
On that point, the engineering colleges and all, at least I'm sure that things have been evolving even in their curriculums or the way they are producing their next batch of talents. At my time, when you were saying articulation, good communications and all, these were unfortunately not taught within any such colleges and all. So do you think, I'm not sure if you're still being touched because you're hiring, so how is that landscape changing? Are schools and colleges are still trying to emphasize on this need?
Yeah, I would say I'm probably not as well versed with how much things have changed, but if I go with my perception, I feel it hasn't changed significantly. Because if I go by whatever I see when we are interviewing fresher, I don't see that emphasis probably in the education system. Yes.
So I think this is something that freshers should actually work upon, not only just mug up some technical stuffs, but also to well articulate why are they doing it and the approach behind it, the thought process behind it.
Absolutely.
So if you're not able to communicate well, then it's a big challenge.
Yes, and the reason is, when you are even if at that point in time, if someone ignores that, it's actually going to make life miserable for the person once they come into an organization. So, it's not going to help. So at the end of the day, even if you have done exceptional work, if the other person doesn't understand how it impacts their area of work or the organization, then probably the value is not realized. So that's where it becomes tricky.
And I think it's not only limited to freshers, even so, like the same fresher somehow cracks an interview, stays in the industry for next 3 to 4 years. He becomes a kind of a mid-career professional. And there are many, I've seen many personal examples in my close vicinity that even they're good technically strong, but the communication is where even they agree.
Yes.
They're aware of the fact that I have to work on this, but somehow it's not happening. So I want to touch that mid-career professional plateau.
Yes.
So after 5 to 6 years, 7 years, that it's a very danger kind of a boundary or a range where things might change, or might be you have to change for the next thing, next big thing.
Right.
But if you are like, how do you hit a plateau and then how do you come out of it?
I think it is about the mindset. Even for a mid-level professional with say 4, 5, 6 years of experience, one thing is at that point in time, technical skills, gaining them on an ongoing basis, upskilling, it's a given. You are expected to do that. Not understanding the larger picture, how your work impacts the organization or how your work impacts some of the other teams that you work with, that I have seen become a limitation for many. So they would say that I'm exceptional in what I'm doing, but still I don't see enough appreciation of what is happening. So I think that mindset is important. You have to step up, sometimes probably get into projects where you work on areas that you are not an expert in. Probably you collaborate with other teams. Sometimes it is seen as, why do I do that? I mean, how is it even relevant to my role? But the reality is that is what prepares you for that transition or that leap ahead. Yes.
Right. So this also even it actually aligns to even my thought, because even in my company also, like there are certain junior resources and they attend to the calls and the meetings that we have with the wider forums and all. What I even try to emphasize whenever there is a discussion that comes up, that don't just sit idle and wait for the call to get ended. Think about what is this discussion all about? Where do you see yourself in that conversation?
Right.
In form of any thought processing, or maybe a technical or deliverable, something that comes from your side, and how is it fitting or benefiting that entire vision that's being discussed upon? See, because if you do not relate to those conversations, you will get bored, and you'll have that mindset, saying that I need to switch the job. Right, exactly. Because this is so boring.
Exactly.
I'm from the banking side, BFSI, so it's dead boring if you're not actively part of it.
True.
Right. So with that, like, what are the skills that you would suggest to mid-career professionals to have that move from execution to leadership?
I think the most important thing is, raising your hand when an opportunity comes, showing that openness or willingness to take up ambiguous things or things that probably you yourself are not sure if you'll be able to do. I think until someone sees that, you won't get that leadership opportunity. So I've had instances since I've had a reasonable span of seeing talented individuals probably not making it to leadership roles, as well as talented individuals making it to leadership roles. I think that's what differentiates them. If you really step up, maybe you volunteer 5 times, yes, maybe 3 times it's not up to the mark and you don't deliver what was desired, but nobody forgets that you're there. They still have you in their mind if a challenge comes.
The subconscious.
So that attitude for me is the most important, and then you will learn through this. Nobody, I keep saying this, nobody is doing rocket science, right? It's not NASA level work. So we are all talented enough to learn and pick new things.
Yeah.
But the bigger point is, are we showing that mindset?
And since we are speaking about these mid-career professionals and all, and they also happen to be looking for further career growth and all, and they want to switch companies and all. So what's your recommendation actually? Like, how should one decide? Should I switch now? Is it the right time? Or should I stay and try to grow in the same company?
I think, again, there is no definitive answer to that. There are multiple variables, too many variables in fact. One, obviously, the individual's own preferences or priorities or what the person is looking for. For example, I have not switched a lot in my career. It doesn't mean that I have not looked for new things. And even if you look at my career role-wise, it looks like I've been in the same role for a longer time. But the thing is, I always looked for what was interesting. And even if something was not asked of me, I was trying to do that. So that kept me interested, motivated. So when it comes to switching, it's an individual preference. Sometimes, things don't work out the way you want. True. For example, I've had in my early days when I was not a people manager, I was told I'm ready. But then it's like, you have to wait for the right time. Because obviously, the dynamics in terms of the right position coming up at the right time, it's not in anyone's control as such.
Yeah.
So I think people have to be aware of that. The only thing that they need to keep in mind is, am I kind of getting better? And this is one test I keep telling my team to do, more of a reflection. Every 3 months, look at your CV and see if there is anything new that you can add on the CV that didn't exist. Yeah. If that is the case, then probably you're still learning or gaining something in your current role.
Stay.
Yes. And And it also is a reflection of what you are doing, because the other thing that everyone should realize is you have to take control of what is there. Today, again, as an example, even within our organization, there's a great push to adopt AI. They're making it really available, a lot of platforms and capabilities to explore. And I still sometimes hear some feedback from individuals saying that, there should be more training on AI. And my point of view is, it's not a one-way exercise, right? Yeah, I mean, you really have literally millions of resources at your disposal. You don't have to wait for something. People have to start doing things. Somewhere, I think that victim mindset also comes in some cases, saying that, I am doing so much, the organization is not caring, they're not doing enough for me. So that probably is not always true. So again, simple answer is, people should do what they think is best for their careers. And even when people leave my teams, I tell them that, you are the owner of your career, or you control your career. Yeah. If you feel that is the right thing to do for you, please go ahead and do. But then always, have a very logical or a structured way of looking at, why you're doing it, rather than just saying that, nothing is working out here and, I just need to jump, or I just need a hike and, I need to move. That's probably not the best.
That sounds more like a frustration than strategy.
Exactly. Right. And this is one question that I keep asking whenever someone resigns in my team. I ask them, have you thought through, or it is more of anything but this? Because if it is anything but this, you probably want to think again, what is happening, what can change, because then your decision probably also is not the best one, maybe.
Yeah. So in that case, like you said, like you are actually your own product, or let's say brand. So what's the role or the importance of a personal branding in such kind of a thing?
It's very, very important. I think I probably didn't realize it earlier in my career. As I said, every small action that you take, every small initiative that you're a part of, every time you deliver something or fail to deliver something, I think everything adds up to your personal brand. Somewhere, I think, things get noticed. Maybe you don't get an appreciation or recognition every other day. The more you keep doing these things, someone somewhere will think of you when the right moment comes or the right opportunity comes. So it's very important. I think, again, you control your personal brand. The most important thing is, what are you doing about it? And are you kind of, sitting and assessing, what have I done for someone to probably look at me differently?
Yeah, the self-introspection should happen more frequently than appraisal discussions.
Absolutely.
And how do you think that someone in this role can actually go about increasing their compensation? Is it by building their personal brand, projecting themselves as a proof of work, as an expertise, as someone having a thought leadership and all? Are these the only things, or am I missing something?
No, I think it might sound a little philosophical, but if your end objective is compensation, you might end up taking wrong decisions. Again, that's where this frequent switching comes in, right? For some, it works. So again, there's no right or wrong. But my view is, just keep looking at what you're learning, what you are doing to yourself as an individual, and the right compensation will happen. Yes, there are instances when, and to be very honest, in my career, I've been in roles where I had the same frustration, saying that, everything was great, learning, opportunities, everything, but compensation was not growing as much. And that did kind of play a role, but that was never the primary factor. So again, I feel compensation is important. It is a realistic or a practical factor.
Yeah, we are here for the business of money making.
But that shouldn't drive or dictate each of your decisions. It should be one of the factors. How much weightage you attach to it is again up to you as an individual.
Subjective,
but more important is, how much value are you adding? How much can you, convince someone else that you are worth a much bigger role, or a role that offers much higher compensation? That's something that you should focus on.
So considering all of these things that you have seen firsthand, have you seen any highly skilled individual kind of fail because of this poor sense of decision making?
I have seen, yes, I've seen both. So I have seen individuals with a lot of talent, lot of promise, and then probably, again falling into that victim mindset, saying that, I've done everything and things are not happening for me. So that's where the challenge is. One, there is no ideal scenario, or it's not utopia. So I think the biggest learning is, I think, through multiple experiences and through sometimes, these leadership trainings or other workshops. One thing I've realized is it is very true to focus on things that you can control and not worry about things that are out of your control. So I mean, that circle of concern, circle of control, please operate within whatever you can control. And things will fall in place, maybe not now, maybe a year later, maybe 2 years later. Keep assessing, keep doing what you can do. And beyond that, I think there are certain factors you can't control.
Yeah, I agree to all the points actually. It does make sense. Now, when you have evolved from being a practitioner, like in the early stage of your career, and then you move to the leadership part, what changed? Like, what kind of perspectives you gained along the way? Like, your way of working, or maybe the mindset change, maybe philosophical, but what kind of things you have observed changing inside you?
I think the initial transition obviously is the most challenging, because up to a point you are probably, as an individual contributor, you're doing really well. You feel that, you can handle challenges. And the moment you get into a role where you probably cannot get into everything, you can't do everything. You have to now trust people.
Delegation.
You have to, delegate, trust.
Yeah.
And also sometimes, be prepared to see below par results, because that's a part of developing people who are working in your team.
Correct.
I think that's the biggest thing. So somewhere, I think what I realize now is, and I've heard this a lot in my earlier years, and now I realize it's so true, that you can only deliver outstanding results if you have if you take care of the people who are going to deliver it. And somewhere I feel that if we take out the people from the equation, it's like you're totally helpless. Even if you are probably talented, outstanding, you can't deliver at that scale until you harness the potential of the people.
So since you have already built team across various the companies that you have served, how do you decide on the team composition? Like when you're building something from scratch, you don't have any benchmark, right? The influx of the projects that are yet to come to you,
right?
These are not yet that transparent,
right?
Not yet communicated formally,
right?
But you're still given the task of go and build a team.
Right.
How do you decide on the team composition? Like I need 4 managers, 3 junior resource, 3 senior resource. How do you plan it?
I think here again, it's more like, the way you work with a client, right? They will have requirements. You try and understand what the requirements are. And as you said, things might evolve and change with time. Things could be dynamic. But at whatever point you are taking that decision, based on the information available to you, you have to take the best possible action.
Okay.
And now that structure could be, maybe there's total ambiguity, you don't know anything, then you probably try and assess what could be the best structure to kind of, scale it later or modify it later. So it is very, very, ambiguous as an exercise. It depends on the clarity that you have. Sometimes it's very clear, like in some roles, I was already in that role. The team had evolved and I had a very good point of view on how the team could evolve further. So it was very easy to figure out, we need, say, 1 or 2 individuals in a specific role. We probably need to change the structure of the team in a certain functional area, things like those. I've been in a setup where also, the team structure was more or less, or let's say the number of people that would come in was decided. And then you probably have to figure out how best to allocate resources or individuals to different functional areas. So you work with whatever best information you have at that point in time. And obviously there is a learning. There's no absolute right or wrong.
Great. I would like to know the tech stack that you have at Orange Business. So I'll be honest, I was looking into the hiring post that you have been sharing over your LinkedIn. What are the tools that your company is your team is actually actively using?
For us, again, primarily for web analytics, it is Google Analytics. And again, we leverage data from Google Cloud Platform whenever we need clickstream or any kind of deeper analysis. For heat mapping and UX analytics, we have a tool called Air 360, which is similar to Content Square or some of the other tools.
Yeah, I use Content Square. That's not in-house, right? It's not vendor.
In-house. Yes. Okay. And for A/B testing, we are using Chameleon. And again, there have been changes. We were historically using some other tools. And right now, these are the ones we are using. For tag management, it's Telium. Visualization, again, there are multiple tools that are at play. ClickSense is one, and Power BI in some cases. So it's a mix of both.
So there are a lot of such options in the market. How do you decide that these are the tools which I need and these ticks all the boxes, and that's what I'm going to have in my team and in my company? So
I think it again depends. If especially for larger organizations, you can't probably change your web analytics tool or your tag management system overnight. So unless there is a real pain or a real problem, obviously that topic doesn't come up. But beyond that, then it's a massive exercise in terms of, understanding where the gaps are, probably what was missing in the earlier tool that probably led to certain situations or certain problems in either reporting, tracking, whatever. I think based on that, you have to identify the tools. And to be very honest, again, my perception is almost every tool kind of, has similar offerings. There could be 1 or 2 strong differentiators. What you need to figure out is those 1 or 2 differentiators, are they very relevant to your organizational context.
Yeah, the
If
use
yes,
cases.
then probably there is merit. If not, then it probably doesn't matter much, choosing between either of the two.
Budget could also
Budget obviously is
have a
one of
role
the
to
important factor. As I said, I think for at least I have seen that most of these vendors typically operate around similar
bracket range.
commercial offerings. And again, somewhere if they say that they're probably charging much higher, and then probably it's up to them to prove that what is that big differentiator that they are offering. And
Right.
sometimes if that is not the case, then obviously that's also a factor to just rule out those vendors.
True. So now that you have too many tools and being handled by too many people, because you're building a team, there are a lot of people they have a various background they come from, thought process, the way of working, the way they accept or react to certain situations and all. Basically, the human mental model,
Yes.
it differs person to
Yes.
person. How does office politics comes into the play, right? Or do you think it can also impact a career growth?
For me, again, I don't know if office politics is the right term. It's like, whenever humans are interacting, there are dynamics. There
yeah.
are preferences, biases, everything comes into play. And again, as I said, this is a realization over years that, if we sit and keep complaining that it's not an ideal world, I did A and I should have probably been rewarded for A. It's not something that you can, just keep sitting and complaining about. So I think, yes, these dynamics play a big role. The individual has to identify what strengths they have to navigate these, that exist in an organization. Sometimes it's probably not possible, things don't work out, then that's when probably someone has to decide whether the organization itself is the right organization for them or not. But somewhere I think these do play a significant role. But it again comes back to the point that you are the owner of your career. You have to figure out how to navigate. And if you don't see a way out, then maybe the alternative is to look for a new setup. But the reality is, again, if someone is wishing that I move from one setup to another, and that will be a very different world, the reality is similar things will play out in a different context or a different setting.
Yeah, the grass is greener on the other side. So that's quite true. But, I keep on listening to the quite frustrating, genuinely frustrating stories from service-based companies also, mid-sized companies also. But I think it's mostly, not everything can be under your control, but then it's the mindset shift that could actually play in your support. And not be, as you said, in the victim part of it always. Like you can't be on that side of the story always. Things will not go favorable.
And if I may add, like for me, I wouldn't say that I had this mindset always, right? I mean, I have had that victim mindset.
Time.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that now I'm kind of coming to terms with the fact that I've probably shown that victim mindset during my early days as well.
Right.
And probably even much longer than I should have. So
yeah, technical knowledge or the overall knowledge is definitely, it's a mandate.
Yes.
But then apart from that, I think we touched upon personal branding.
True.
Which is kind of a result of visibility.
Yes.
Being proactive about an opportunity, you grab it. Like you said, like you be open for those kind of opportunities. Secondly, the personal branding, I think it's also kind of connected to networking.
True.
They go hand in hand.
True.
You can't be a personal brand in your bedroom.
Right.
It's of no use.
Absolutely.
Right. And also the timing. Right. If you're, I mean, a lot of people say that, this guy just got lucky. Nobody's lucky.
True.
They were present for the right reason, the right time.
True.
That's what played. So I think if we combine all of these things, would you say this is the whole package someone needs to be, adopting to for their career growth?
Absolutely. And again, in an organization, I think two aspects, right? One, the work that you do, there's excellence expected in that for sure. But in terms of how much others understand what you offer as an individual, as a brand, that I think is up to you. And that's where your own introspection or assessment is important. How do you do it? Because networking for me, again, personally, being very honest, is not something that comes naturally. And I would say I'm still struggling with it.
Yeah.
But then the point is that networking doesn't necessarily mean that I have to be everywhere and talk to everyone and everyone should know about me. I have to look at what resonates with me. If probably working with specific individuals in other teams or specific initiatives in other teams is something that really drives me, that's good enough for me. And it's fine. I mean, if I can do it only to that extent. So one shouldn't probably, sometimes, I'll be very honest again, LinkedIn, if I may talk about it. You have these templates now on, how to initiate a connect, how to connect with someone and, no matter how polished or great it is, the other person can understand what it is about. So somewhere I think we have to be very clear about when we are doing these things, even networking and probably getting involved, do something that you really think is meaningful for you as well as probably for the other person. And if not, probably it's not worth pursuing because it might not lead anywhere.
It might soon become a liability.
True.
If you're not genuinely having a common chord to connect. Yeah, great. Okay, I'll give you a situation, all right? Because we spoke about the politics part and personal branding, a lot of things. So let's say there are two employees.
Right.
Okay, so one consistently delivers high quality work, and like the company a manager wants to do some stretch goals, he also does that. Whereas there is another employee, right, who kind of delivers average work sometimes, but he has a very strong visibility, networking aptitude, and quite a good rapport across the teams. Who should be rewarded more?
I think I don't want to complicate it, but depends on what is it that we are referring to when we say reward. Because for me, in terms of deliverables within the team, if someone is really doing exceptionally well, is ready to step up and kind of, take stretch assignments and still deliver, I think monetarily, increments, promotion, obviously he's a better candidate for sure. And let's say someone who's probably, and you said like average work sometimes, it's scary because if you're doing average work every time, it's still good. But average work sometimes, and probably you're still good at networking, then potentially maybe, you will find your way in the organization. Maybe someone values you more than what you're delivering. But for me, if I look at what they are doing in my team, I would obviously think that the first person is probably more deserving when it comes to increments or, growth opportunities. The other person, again, based on his performance, it will be assessed objectively, but then he probably could still end up getting an internal job posting because of, the fact that he contributed to other initiatives and, others know him better probably.
Okay. So it means that the good way or the mid pathway is probably deliver what you were supposed to do with your full intent, plus also like work for your personal branding and do some networking and all, at least.
I think, again, this is just my perspective, right? Again, there could be so many individuals or so many managers looking at it very differently.
Correct.
So for me, yes, it's like, do your best and try keep challenging the boundaries of what you're doing, and someone somewhere will notice. If you feel that, you have that fulfillment, the biggest question to ask is, am I looking forward to, going to work today or logging in today?
Correct.
If that every day is a big excitement, then it's great. If not, then things have to be figured out. Something you are doing wrong or something probably is wrong in the...
So this is for sure that just doing good work alone, that's not a guarantee of tomorrow's success, right? I was watching a podcast again, and there was a guy, I forgot his name, although follow him. So he was saying that if only talented people, just on the basis of talent, they do not become CEO. That's not enough, right? So you also need to, I think the things that we have, the aspects we have touched upon, personal branding, networking, and that openness and everything put together, I think all combined and compressed into one person, that makes him eligible for such kind of a leadership role. Awesome. So I'll just, I want to draw some attention to another burning topic, which kind of many of my friends of friends are kind of bothered. That's because of a perception. It's a very common perception between comparing between Indian managers and foreign managers and all. So mostly the perception is kind of stronger towards stereotyping Indian managers not being great with their work-life balances, kind of more micromanagement coming into the picture at play. But the same thing is not that evident with the counterparts like the foreign managers and all. Why do you think this happens?
I think, again, it is a broader cultural difference also. I think, again, I've worked in an Indian company and I've seen a lot of, I wouldn't say necessarily all my managers were like that, but I've seen a lot of managers who were into kind of, micromanaging. And I've even seen at some point in my career, I even had the micromanagement to the level that probably, I step into work. At 9, I'm told something has to be delivered at 5. And at 9:15, the person is standing behind me and saying, where have we,
where are we
reached?
With it?
Yeah, where are we with it? So I think I've seen that as well. So I think, again, yes, generally, my perception is that it depends on how each individual looks at what work means to them. Like in certain setups or in some companies, I still feel, and it probably could happen with some of the larger organizations depending on how the culture is, because we have a very small sample to go with. Some of the bigger brands that are there here are
right.
We might not probably say it is representative of the reality.
True.
But the point is, somewhere I think the mindset that if I need him to deliver something, it has to happen. If that is the mindset, then micromanaging almost comes in. You say that if you have to say give deliverables that are practically feasible to be delivered in 2 days, but you want it in a single day, then obviously all these problems start. So somewhere it's a mindset, the individual mindset also. How do they see an employee? Because now, how is that kind of shaped? It's also the larger organizational culture. Now,
values and...
Exactly. I mean, like for me, when I worked at Dell, especially, I want to call it out, the kind of leadership, the managers, because I was not a manager then. And I kind of learned a lot from the managers that I saw there. And it was really a huge difference in terms of, how the mindset was. They are Indian managers, but working in a different kind of setup.
Culture and all.
So they understood the balance was a thing. They were reasonable, or there were realistic expectations.
Correct.
Sometimes that is where the problem is, when you have unrealistic expectations, and that's where we have seen comments where people say that you
just need to open Glassdoor.
Exactly. So I would say, it's commonly seen probably that, most of the multinationals with a larger presence, I think it's more evolved sometimes in that mindset. And I would say a lot of Indian companies probably also, just that probably, we might not be aware of as many Indian companies. At an individual level, there is a factor. And then at a larger organizational culture level also,
matters.
It plays. So sometimes it nullifies also. For example, if I had...
Right.
At Dell, when I was not a manager, if I had seen people who were doing the same things over and over, even though personally I disliked it, maybe somewhere I would have picked up some of those traits and said that, no, I have to micromanage, this is how it will happen. And it would have been a very different story altogether. So I think you learn a lot also. You absorb a lot in terms of the culture that you're operating in.
I think I am lucky in that way, because all of my managers in my past until current and all, they had been people whom you can actually look up to.
True.
Right? And it's about, like, the micromanagement doesn't happen overnight. It's like you said, all the traits combined makes a manager a micromanager, right? Then the accountability, the trust towards your subordinates, and the technical expertise and everything that you also bring. Your team is not like your servant, right? It's your team, so you are part of the team. So these two are like in the same circle of the Venn diagram. These are not separate.
True.
Now the thing here is that if you can really relate to the problems or the task and everything, you can easily set up a very the goal or the objective or the timeline. Very realistic expectations you can set up. But there are certain I've seen that, I've observed it, that there are certain teams, suddenly the management got changed, and there is a person who has no relativity or any past experience with this domain, but now he or she is a manager to that domain.
Right.
You don't know the team stack, the tech stack, or what are they delivering, how much time does it take, because you are not a practitioner. That's why we are also in this whole discussion on this podcast. The idea is to bring real practitioners who are walking the talk, not just blabbering or just going around micromanaging. So I think that things are connected. Right. So I think for myself, I would say that I was lucky that I actually got to learn from each of my managers. Right. And I think that's a special call out to all my managers, whoever is watching. So that had been a great learning thing for me. And also one more thing which I would like to point, that also includes you, by the way. I've seen such people who are very high up the ladder, but they're equally on the ground. Things are very approachable towards them. You can actually go, there is no, like, we call it as an open door policy, right? So you can just go to someone, approach, talk about your problem or any vision or anything. I think that's what makes a manager a real person whom you can value. Awesome. So that was great knowing about, but what's your idea of an ideal manager? Who is an ideal manager?
I think an ideal manager is who understands every individual in his team and knows how to kind of, empower them, trust them, and at the same time get involved when needed or give guidance when needed, but not necessarily do it the same way with everyone. I think for me that's the most I mean, even I'm learning or trying to do that. I don't think I'm really good at it, but I think that's what an ideal manager is, because then you understand, where a person needs probably special assistance or guidance, and where probably you just let them be, make their mistakes, learn, and probably grow. So I think that's what an ideal manager is, and I think trust is probably the biggest factor.
True. It's more about equity. You distribute equally among them. So there are various ways of leadership. There are some people who are kind of hands-on leaders. Some of them are like, people first or outcome first. What kind of leadership philosophy is, working for you personally?
I think I am somewhere operating on people first, and not at the cost of outcomes. Again, for me, the most important thing is balance. Knowing that, we always prefer having, a binary kind of answer, right? Either this or that. It's always a mix. And I know that's what many people complain about B school graduates also, right? Like any question you ask, the answer is, it depends. It's neither a yes nor a no. So I think somewhere, I mean, one shouldn't happen at the cost of the other thing. That's the main thing. So I think I'm more inclined towards the people aspect, but at the same time, not at the cost of, outcomes getting delayed or not meeting the expectations of the organization. For me, I take great pride in the fact that, if the individuals in my team, if they kind of, whenever they are out together, let's say they go for breaks or whatever, even in my absence, if they enjoy each other's company,
right,
for me, I feel very happy about it. It's not that, I'm forcing them to work together and, operate as a team. It's like they have natural, there's some chemistry that is happening, not necessarily every other individual, but some individuals with some other individuals. So I think as a group, as long as they're happy, and especially even in your absence, for me, that's a big sign of things are working well. For me, again, when you're at work, you probably are spending more time with the individuals who are your colleagues rather than probably, what you spend with your family. For me, that's more important. So it's more people first, but not at the cost of outcomes.
That's more like, parents watching their two kids really bonding and gelling up together. So they also feel happy that I have raised, nice people. So that gives a satisfaction that, okay, I'm doing something right. What's the role of empathy in a successful leadership?
I think it is very important. They keep talking about even emotional intelligence, right? So if you don't have empathy, then obviously you are bound to have more challenges managing people. Especially in my initial days as a people manager. Obviously, you don't have it, organically always. You have to develop it as well. What I realized is your day, how it kind of fares or what happens is not entirely dependent on you, because you have so many conversations, so many things happening. There could be so many things that kind of, add to your either baggage or could charge you up. And that's what is important. So I think as an empathetic manager, I think you'll probably be able to understand the individuals better. And I think that's where your trust, two-way trust, right? I mean, you trusting your employee as well as your employee trusting you, that builds. So for me, I think, it's a no-brainer. Empathy is probably one of the biggest
but
factors.
It's something that is not so commonly available, unfortunately, right? Although it plays a very significant role. I mean, even in my MBA also, like, there was a lot of focus around emotional intelligence, EQ, right. So IQ is something, but IQ could maybe open the doors for you, but EQ will help you to stay there.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's what even I believe, because it's from my hard way of learning from my MBA days. There's one more belief. Again, it might be a personal belief, but I would like to know your perspective on it. I believe that for a successful leader, someday you should have been a good follower. What's your perspective on it? I mean, that's again my personal thought.
For me, it depends on what it means by follower, leader. So for me, I would put it differently. I would say that, you can't always be preaching. You should be listening to what others have to say as well. And as I was saying earlier, it was although more on the technical side, I was saying that I keep reminding myself that out there are probably thousands or maybe even millions of individuals who are not even working in this domain, but know much more than me. And that's where reminding myself of that probably helps me listen to them or pay attention to others, rather than, being full of myself and saying that, I know it, I'm an expert, I've spent so many years. So I've heard that, I'm already aware of that. I think that's where, I think again, leader follower, I think it's more of, you have to be a follower, yes, again depending on how you define follower, and you should be willing to probably learn from others and pay attention to what others have to say, irrespective of where they stand in terms of the organizational hierarchy or relationship in the organization with you.
Great. So the other day again, Hari was actually sharing one of his friend's story from a different company. So, and this has been, even I kind of reciprocate to that. I happen to also heard about all of these things. So someday the whole team is, or maybe few members are given some task, like build this, use AI, build a dashboard, build some, transformation on something, all the jargons, right? And they need it, aggressively, they need it ASAP. But the moment it gets delivered somehow, the weekends are spoiled, right? Holidays are spoiled, PTOs are gone, and they deliver, and then complete silence follows, radio silent. And this is a kind of, it happens in over and over again, and it burns out the employees and all. They get frustrated and all. Why do you think these kind of things happen? Like suddenly I need this, and suddenly once you deliver, there is no closure, nothing, gone, silent. How should one tackle these kind of things?
I have seen such situations when I was not a manager. And I do think sometimes it is like, certain individuals or certain probably managers, they potentially have something in mind they want to kind of prove, establish, or kind of, take to their leadership. And then that kind of gets passed on to their teams. The point is, once in a while, if it happens, it's still manageable. But if it's a constant way of operating, how does one deal with it? There are only two ways. One, try to kind of change something about it by having an open conversation saying that, this has happened. These are the sequence, objectively stating everything, that this is the sequence of events and we didn't see a result. So just, expressing curiosity as to what actually happened. Was what was delivered not up to the mark? Was it something else? So in a, probably a more objective manner, just state everything and see what exactly caused it. Maybe that will help the person introspect or reflect if the motive was not very clear in that person's mind.
More.
Exactly. And the other part is potentially if the person is not willing to accept, not ready to take it, then potentially, the individual has to look for, again, their own mechanisms to deal with these things. Maybe, maybe not go out of their way to do certain things and probably define the boundaries, saying that I'll still deliver it, but not kind of burn myself out or kind of, what probably, if I'm at 85% of what I was intending to do, maybe I'll leave it there. It's not that I'm giving substandard work. It's just that I was expecting to do something way beyond, but I'm kind of limiting myself so that I don't get into a burnout kind of a situation.
Right. Again, since you're talking about could be a proof of concept or something that's going on. But with AI, the artificial intelligence in the market, so I think such kind of progressive and very aggressive push towards do something, get some POC, use AI, it's very frequent and it's everywhere across all sort of companies. Doesn't matter. It's kind of industry agnostic now. Each of the industry, everyone wants to adopt AI somehow. Now the thing is, you have also seen the changes happening. So what kind of changes are you observing these days due to AI?
Obviously there are a lot of experts. I'm not one of them. And they probably have a better sense of, how things are unfolding and what is happening. My view is obviously, with so much uncertainty and as we know, nobody is, even prepared for the kind of developments or evolutions that are happening every other day. Without getting into the specifics Claude Mythos and things like those. There are so many unanticipated things happening. So it's very natural that, everywhere there is that sense of, understand this thing or this unknown, or if someone might call it, understand this beast probably better. That's what everyone is trying to do. And I think it's a good thing for people to be involved in it. Again, I'm assuming that, there are lines drawn and not do 100 POCs every other day, but probably spend some time focusing on 2 or 3 key things that you want to deliver. And then probably if things don't work out, if you fail, that's fine. For me, the person involved in this as an employee or a team member, I think it's still a learning for that person. And it's not necessarily bad. But yes, sometimes if it's kind of, there's just every other day you have to just deliver something for the sake of showing something, then something is organically wrong.
And this actually resonates to what Mrs. Arundhati Bhattacharya had. I actually was watching one of her podcasts, and she has driven State Bank of India for a great period of time, and now she is the India CEO for Salesforce, and who are also into the IT industry, right, the services and all. And she said exactly the same thing, that there is no point to be against it because the change is very real. It's there. Now, what we could ideally do is to adopt it to our own use case and to our own learnings. Set up the boundaries. You can't be like everywhere burning tokens, which is happening left, right, and center. There are many people saying that, oh, Anthropic tokens are gone, no usage, this is a waste of time, let's go back. So what she had to say is that if you're not aligning your objectives with AI, you can't be vague with AI. Because in that case, you end up getting vague results. And for freshers also, she had a message that get AI fluent. You don't need to build AI, but at least for this task, which one is the most optimized AI? You should at least be aware of those things. That's when you have an edge over lakhs of other freshers in the market. So AI-driven layoffs are also happening, right? What are your thoughts on like companies saying that we have cut down 5,000, kind of boasting also, bragging and boasting that we have cut down 5,000 employees because we got AI. So what are your thoughts about these headlines?
I think for me, again, given where I am right now with my time in the industry, I think again, and the realization that I've had, I see this pretty similar to the situation during COVID. It was like, a lot of uncertainty. I mean, in many ways, I know it's not the same, but the uncertainty is same. You don't know what is happening. A lot of layoffs happening, and that constant anxiety among employees as to, am I next or will I be impacted? Still, the message back then was, don't worry about your circle of concern, worry about your circle of control. As you said, adopt AI, start leveraging it. If you have delivered something or if you have shown a meaningful use of AI, probably you most likely wouldn't be in that, list of layoffs. And if it still happens, that's the reality today. I mean, we have to accept. I mean, nobody is guaranteed anything today. And that's something that, again, I remind myself and probably people who I can advise. I advise the same to them that, we can't control these things. So let's make ourselves more relevant. And that's the most important thing. I think that's something that I am myself struggling to do right now because I want to stay more relevant. I feel I'm not doing enough. But that's something that, the first step is at least the acknowledgement and realization.
Yes, exactly.
And then you start taking actions. Somewhere that denial or kind of, resistance is not going to help. So yes, layoffs are happening. I'm very sure that, at some point, there could be other phase also where, you have, I know all the experts are saying that, it's just reshaping the jobs and roles and, new roles will come up the way it was during the IT boom as well. I'm very sure something like that will happen. The bigger point is we can't sit there and say that, this AI is messing up things and, forget it, I'm not going to use it. Let us have a point of view. Let us say, yes, I have adopted it. I have used it for 10 specific use cases. 5 were irrelevant, but I know these 5 are meaningful. So probably you also have a better appreciation, and potentially the management also sees that this individual is someone who's going to adopt it. Again, the mindset, right? The individual is showing the mindset that he's ready to try it out and, explore. Maybe the person probably or his role, or he probably proves that how his role can probably evolve with AI rather than being impacted by it.
Right. That's more like saying that you amplify your quality and capabilities using AI, not by going against it. And even I feel the industry is maturing. The mad rush is slowly settling down. Again, the industry is also I was reading a Gartner report from February this year. So they're saying that the layoffs that are branded as an AI layoffs, so those kind of things are giving some money back to the bank, but that is not enough to create any value. Right. So I think it's the adoption should be mostly around what kind of value you are driving rather than how much money did you save by chopping off employees. Right. That's not a way of growing forward. That's something even I reciprocate and resonated to it.
And I think now there are enough voices or enough being written about the other side of it as well. I think I don't recollect the article or the exact author who wrote it. But there was a point around, without people, what would you do in terms of, yes, there will be a balance. There will be reshaping of roles. There will be some kind of, calibration that will happen or recalibration that will happen. But eventually you need people. So the point around, freshers not getting hired at all because, everything will be done by AI, that needs a rethink. In some ways that resonated with me. And I think there is a lot of now the counter view also that is coming. So I think somewhere we'll reach the
Counter
right
views
balance.
are there, yes, absolutely. Counter views are there because again, I'll quote Gartner here because last month only they gave one more report and they said that most of the companies who have laid off people due to AI, out of them, 50% of those companies would be rehiring those people by end of 2027.
True.
Maybe not for the exact positions, but slightly modified, but they will need those people back.
True.
Right? Because there are many discussions around the judgment that AI makes.
Yes.
It's a non-linear kind of thinking. Like you might know something about very intrinsic, something internal about the company or the process or the vision.
Yes.
AI, on the other hand, would maybe depend more on tangible facts and data.
True.
Right? Somebody might advocate that no, you can also train AI, of course, but we're not getting into that detail. But this is what the Gartner report said. So I'm just quoting Gartner over here.
And on this, I think the other thing to keep in mind is, it's becoming challenging for organizations also, right? Because the pace at which the change is happening, that is very difficult. And
Yeah.
I mean, again, organizations or managements are doing what they think is the right thing to do with the information and assessment that is available at that point in time and using their judgment. So nobody has a crystal ball. So they are doing the best. And I think what makes it more challenging and complex is the pace at which it's evolving. I think
exactly.
that is unprecedented.
Yes.
That is where the problem is.
Right.
So we do something, and again, I think most are going with fail fast approach. Try out, adopt, learn, and kind of, if you have to make amends or go back to your earlier ways, be open to that. And that's where I think it is obviously not ideal for people who are impacted. Somewhere I think a bit of that is
So this
out.
is what even Arundhati ma'am was emphasizing, that ask your company, if you're driving a company, ask yourself that, are you ready with some use cases for AI?
Right.
If you don't have it, you are just in a haste to adopt it.
Right.
Could be a FOMO, could be to be on the trend,
True.
but that's not going to help you in the longer run. You are going to burn out more than than any other factor. Great. So in terms of I'll go back to the networking part and all. So you actually created the DAC community, what do you call it? The digital analytics community, the DAC community, and when did you start it?
I started working on it in 2017, but it did exist in some form even before that. So there were a couple of years where I kind of, had participated in it. This was again an initiative where individuals across organizations were trying to do it. It didn't sustain, and I now understand why. But yeah, it started in 2017, and then again, we were mainly doing quarterly meetups in person. And then obviously during COVID, there was a big phase where it kind of slowed down, and eventually it did come back, but then again, other priorities and other developments probably slowed it down.
It's a tough thing to manage such kind of, and you would be glad to know that even unknowingly, I attended one of the events 2019. The event happened in JCPenney office.
JCPenney, yeah.
And I recall a few of the speakers. I'm still in touch with them. So thank you for making that community. At least I was part of it. I have learned from that the community gathering and presentations. A lot of good qualitative discussions happened. So it was great to have that.
For me, I think the biggest, being an attendee myself in the initial years, I felt the biggest value there was, you don't need thousands or a lot of money to kind of register for it. That was the objective. It's a pro bono kind of a thing. Correct. Where you just need a kind of infrastructure, a meeting room with the right kind of setup, and an organization that is willing to kind of host it. I think that was the objective, because I somewhere felt, again at that point, I had my teams, and I felt we can't obviously sponsor everyone attending multiple conferences. And so I said, it's a good opportunity, there's good work happening. It's on both fronts. One, you attend and learn from what good work others are doing, again without any confidential or organizational data being shared, in a way which is just more inspiring to know that these are the potential use cases or applications of the tools that we use. The other is, it was also a motivator for the team members to say that, is this good enough to probably showcase in DAC? And so I found it very beneficial in that sense. We don't have to go and pay thousands. Organically, something is happening. Again, logistics was a challenge, but that was the motive behind it.
Yeah, it's never easy to drive a community, and that's what even the Measure Camp, the event that I was talking about, that's again offering free tickets for entry. And just a shout out to Measure Camp, so you don't miss out the chance to be part of a ticketless entry to a great event happening on September 12th in Delhi. So even I like to be part of such communities because I got the taste from the DAC, thanks to you again. So even whenever these meetings happen, these are like unofficial things. So you can reach out to people unofficially, discuss your challenges, or maybe what should I do next?
Right.
How should I plan my career and all? There are many people who are, open-minded and they can actually guide you. I think that's a great thing that we still have these kind of people thinking around and building such communities, right? So that's, I think, it's a great piece of discussion that we had. So last thing that I would like to still call out is, if someone is watching this podcast and feels a bit lost in the path of their career, what would be your message to them?
The most important thing that I said to keep in mind is, you own your career. So any action that you take will influence how your career moves. There is no linear path, or there's no straight path. Sometimes it could take longer, sometimes it could take probably more time than probably another peer of yours or, batchmate of yours. Don't look at that. Just keep focusing on what you can do, what you can control. Because for me, again, in my early days, that was a big challenge, this constant comparison. As humans, we again, get into that,
Agreed.
Who's on the podium, who's second, who's third. We all passed out in the same year. He's there today, I'm here today. No, I mean, that's not the reality. We just see one part of it. The person could have had a very difficult journey to reach wherever he is. Maybe it's not worth it for you. So just keep that in mind. Careers will progress. Take your calls. Sometimes it could be slow, sometimes it could be fast.
Yeah.
Just keep assessing, am I doing everything that I can do? And if even beyond that things are not moving, I'm assuming it's a short-term thing. I'm very sure that if you are doing everything that you can do and taking care of everything that you can, it can't be that, for 5, 6, 7, 10 years, things are stacked against you. That won't be the case. So just have confidence and focus on what you need to do.
All right, sir. So it's been great to have you in here, and thanks for taking the pain out in the Bangalore streets to be on the sets of
Happy to
podcast.
be here.
I really enjoyed the discussion, and I really hope that even viewers will also agree to that. Thanks for being into the podcast. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, a quick reminder, the countdown for Measure Camp is started and it is happening on September 12th in Delhi. And for more information, you can go to delhi.measurecamp.org. And because the tickets are completely free and they're released in small batches, please make sure that you sign up before the countdown ends.
Okay, we have also put the link into the description. Do check that out, and it will keep you updated about any real-time updates happening with the venue and the timing and also the ticket. And lastly, do follow us, subscribe, and do share.
Thank you everyone.